this session is about the Cloud Infrastructure Services course offered by EMC Academic Alliance. So just give us a quick feel. How many of you know the EMC Academic Alliance already? Oh, okay, enough that we need to kind of cover it. Okay.
How many of you?
Go ahead. No, you first.
No, you first.
How many of you are going to raise your hand no matter what Bill and I ask, so that we get a feel for that too? All right. Oh, well, one or two people say they're not going to. That's pretty typical in this kind of thing. Bill, go ahead.
Is anybody a member of the EMC Academic Alliance? One, two. Okay,
One,
good.
two.
So,
Okay. All right. So Kim Johanna is a very nice lady. If you join her program, she'll treat Bill and I really well. So please join us. No, we're just kidding. Here's the thing. There's no pressure about these programs. So this is a vendor program that they're trying to give back to society. They get business value out of doing that. For example, how many of you have checked out a simple job search for keywords? Like, have you ever done on Dice.com a keyword search for Cisco? A lot of jobs, right? How about VMware? Done one for VMware? If you haven't, you got a computer, do it. We can do an interactive thing. You tell us how many jobs you find. Go to Dice.com, put in the keyword storage. And how many jobs do you come back in the United States? Well, there's a ton of jobs in the storage industry. So EMC is recognizing one of the problems is if you go to an IT program, no one's necessarily teaching these concepts to students as a track. We teach Microsoft, we teach maybe Linux, or we teach Cisco. EMC is trying to fill that gap. Sounds like a good value? All right, so these offerings that Bill's going to go over, it's totally free. Any academic institution can join them, and you can teach these courses for free. Well, free is kind of a buzzword, but you got to invest your time and labor. We're going to try to make it a little easier for you and explain those programs. Bill?
okay, so like Rich just mentioned, the EMC Academic Alliance has been around for several years now. It's in a number of countries. So the Academic Alliance can provide partner schools with a whole bunch of really cool benefits. First of all, it partners with your college, and EMC is a very, very good partner. As Rich said, it's virtually no pain for the college. It's free, kind of like Cisco Academy, in that it's a free alliance. You do have to get your instructors certified and trained, but that's easy because the training, a lot of the times the training is online and free for instructors, and they will even provide a voucher so that the instructor can take the certification test. So they're a really cool place to partner with. They've got a lot of good programs, and because EMC and VMware, regardless of what you read in the Wall Street Journal the last couple of days, has not at this point even considered divesting themselves. So there's a nice symbiotic relationship between the VMware side of the house and the EMC storage side of the house. The nice thing also about the courseware, it's all open source. It's not open source, but it's all open, which means it's not vendor specific. That's the one thing I really appreciate. There's a lot of vendor specific programs. EMC says you need to learn storage concepts, or you need to learn cloud concepts, or you need to learn big data concepts, whether you're going to use EMC, which they hope you'll end up using, or you're going to use another product. So here's the open curriculum that EMC supports right now. So right now, the main classes that tend to be the big ones in the EMC stable is the information and storage management, and again, a vendor neutral certification. Cloud infrastructure and services, we'll talk more about that a little bit later as we go on this afternoon. And I've got a, time permitting, going through a small demo of one of the labs in the cloud infrastructure. Can you all hear me? For some reason, it's like a sound block right here, but you can all hear me. Okay, good. The two other ones they have are backup and recovery architecture course. That's a really nice disaster recovery class. Again, vendor neutral. We all know we need backup and recovery, whether you're going to use an HP solution or if you're going to use an EMC solution or whatever solution. You need to know the concept. So again, very much. And big data, or big data science and big data analytics is huge in that area as well. Now I'm going to be giving my session tomorrow is going to be on teaching cloud computing, and I'm going to go into some more of the generalizations of how all of this kind of blends together into how do you teach cloud into your classroom. So if you're interested in that, if you're interested in teaching cloud as part of your IT curriculum or part of any curriculum, please attend tomorrow morning. Shameless plug, of course. These are the course offerings that EMC has, and again, you can read these. These slides will be made available. They will be given to the high-tech people for their website, as well as they will also be passed along through other venues, such as the National Science Foundation grant I'm working with, which is the CTC, Convergence Technology Center. That will be posted up on their websites as well. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time reading every bullet point to you. I find, death by PowerPoint, it can just drive you crazy. But you can see the information and storage management, and there is actually a textbook that has been written out of their corporate material. So it's the corporate training in actual college textbook form. So it's much more accessible to your students, much more readable. We've been teaching that for a number of semesters at Orange Coast College, and the class has been very successful, and the students have learned an awful lot. Cloud infrastructure and services, that's what we're going to work on and show you today. Then the two newer ones are the data science and big data analytics and backup. Now these all tie to EMC certifications, to an EMC certification test. Now again, these are vendor neutral. These are not specific to the EMC. But EMC says you have to have a good foundation before you learn the actual specifics of the product. And as Rich mentioned a few minutes ago, that is where these programs really benefit. Your students can go, they can learn concepts, and then they can advance along and be ready to actually hit the ground running for classes and vendors later on. Now, from an IT perspective, this survey, which came from the source Managing Information Infrastructure, a white paper that was written just this year, number 5 has really ended up being a major part, and that is designing, deploying, and managing storage in virtualized servers. One of the things that we have been teaching a lot in, how many of you teach virtualization? Probably a VMware class, but it could be Citrix or Hyper-V as well. One of the things that is woefully lacking out of a lot of those classes is not so much storage. They talk about storage, how to set up storage, but they really don't talk about big storage, shared storage, SANs, NAS, and etc. So the fact is, there's not a lot of skilled professionals and technicians who know about this. And industry has noted that as well. And you can take a look at where everything is on this ranking, and there's a whole bunch of stuff here that's all related to the storage world. And again, we think that's a very, very important concept. So how would you get started with the Academic Alliance? Very simple. If you want to know more specifics afterwards, I'll hang around for a few minutes, or I'll be in the exhibit hall over at the CTC booth, and I'll be happy to explain a little bit of it to you. I can play Kim Yohannan, even though I look lousy in a dress. You can laugh at the jokes, guys, please.
They're too bad.
Okay. Please laugh at the jokes. If you want to do it, it's an online application form. The contract is definitely written so that colleges can easily adapt. I have yet to find anything in the contract that would put any onerousness on your college. And trust me, I've read a lot of these agreements, and our legal team at the school I work at, they love to pick apart vendor contracts. And they found nothing. I think the only thing they found was they forgot to put the state. It was specifically, it was just kind of general United States. They said, could you put the word California in it? Sure. Somewhere it's like, that this is a California contract. All right, fine. Once approved, it provides the faculty with free training, access to course materials, resources, online support. Mr. Jeff Palmer here, who's also with the CTC, has taught the class. How many times have you guys taught it?
Over the last 4 years, 5 years. Usually once a semester.
So 4 or 5 times?
Yeah.
Yeah. The course material is very good. The working, you're going to love And I mean love with a capital L, you're gonna love the NetLab stuff. It really makes it work. Really about the only thing you ever have to give back a lot of to EMC is once a year, you have to report how many students took the class and completed the class. And I do that in an email. You know, Kim emails me, what were your stats? I say, okay, I had 40 students take the class, 30 students completed, thank you very much, that's all they need to know. They can track how many got certification, because we can't, we have trouble with that. Okay, so, went the wrong way, I think. There. So, expanding the value to faculty and students is, again, the courseware is very open, it's very accessible, it's very usable. The community of faculty, again, community of best practice. For those of you familiar with the Cisco Academy, very much in the same vein, where we contribute as much to each other as EMC contributes to us.
Will they allow you to take their courses apart and create your own course from a piece here, piece here, piece here?
I have to check with Kim. I don't have an exact answer. My guess would be probably not. You could probably take pieces out of it with permission. You'd have to probably get special permission to do it. Now, if you were an EMC Academy, that would probably be a lot easier than if you're not. So they still may want you to become an academy for that reason. But I would have, again, I would defer that question directly to Kim Yohannan, and I can if you want me to. The evaluation process at the end of the class, EMC would like to pick up your information, you know, what did the students like, what did they not like, what was good, what was bad, and report back. And of course, industry recognition is growing. EMC is a very, very viable vendor in the storage area and in the cloud sector, and therefore its certifications are very much recognized by the employers that you'll find out there. There's the web page you can go to. Really easy to find, and by the way, you can Google search EMC Academic Alliance, takes you right to that page. Top of the list, get straight there. Love Google for that. And now, the complementary programs. I'm not going to talk much, in fact, I'm not going to talk at all, maybe one slide of the VMware IT Academy. Very similar in nature to the EMC Academy. Anybody VMware Academies in here? A couple of you guys? Okay. So I'll talk to that as a little bit later, and I will talk about it more in my session tomorrow morning. But I'd like to turn it over to my associate and colleague over here, my dear friend, Rich Weeks, who's going to tell you about how you can do this. Why do I sound all of a sudden like a sales guy?
Stop it.
Stop. See?
All right,
So-
are you on the internet?
Yeah.
Wow, Bill, how do you do this, man?
Oh,
Holy
sorry.
cow. This sucker is small.
I know. I'm taking my big computer.
Okay. All right, guys, what I'm going to share with you real quickly is just a couple of things. What I want to do is jump on the internet, and I want to kind of share something I think is kind of eye-opening. How many of you are familiar with Indeed.com? Anybody in the room? It's a really good techie job search engine. So, I don't know what market you're in, but I encourage you to do this for your students in front of the students one day in a class. Just do a keyword search. Search on things that you teach and things that you think the student should consider. And I'll tell you why I encourage this. I work with a lot of directors and executives at vendor programs when they're trying to work to these academic programs. And believe it or not, they need to align to what the marketplace wants, right? I mean, they're not going to get budget dollars to invest in an academic program unless the marketplace wants that. I just did a storage, that's a keyword, 111,000 jobs where storage skills are part of the job description. 111,000. This is a big deal if you're going to be in IT. You know, knowing storage and understanding storage and managing data, okay? So let me share with you what I do if I can work my way around Bill's computer design for, what's that, what are those things on that Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
Oh, bunch of Oompa Loompas.
The Loompa computer here. See if I can get around it. Thank gosh it doesn't look too bad on the screen except for this part. We recognize that gentleman. All right, www.netdevgroup.com. That's all you got to go to, netdevgroup.com. What we do is align to all these academic programs so you can set up a couple of VMware servers, and then you can teach 30 to 40 different IT programs, including building your own. So VMware, EMC, etc. Now I've got a whole PowerPoint deck that I tried to send to Bill that goes through these CIS courses. Unfortunately, I was unable to get it to your email. I don't know why it keeps bouncing at me. Probably because I'm doing a typo, maybe. But anyway, what I want to share with you, if I can navigate the computer, I may have to change computers here, Bill.
No worries. You want to change?
No, I'll figure it out. Let's see. Wow. There we go.
Control minus will make it smaller too, will make the screen smaller.
Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm going to go over here to the two different EMC courses. Now, storage management, and there's some slides that are going to cover this in the presentation in a second. Here are actual hands-on labs. I don't know if you can see them, so I'll read them to you. An introduction to storage. Now, that first lab, what your student is going to do is actually install OpenFiler. They're going to actually build and install OpenFiler. Once they've got an OpenFiler SAN built, we can start teaching them about RAID. Okay? Then we can also start teaching them about LUNs. Then we can start talking about network attached storage, and then analyzing protocols and performance on the network attached. Then we can go into iSCSI, backup recovery, identifying security vulnerabilities, securing the storage, managing the storage infrastructure. So it's kind of like building blocks, if you will. All right? Now, that's the lab library. Now, we do that against, let's see if I can show you the topology real quick. We do that against a specific topology on purpose. We do it using virtual machines. Here's the topology that we teach those courses, those lab exercises against. You've got that SAN I mentioned, and it's all a clickable image, and Bill's going to show you this, right? You're going to demonstrate it against an actual course. And then you've got a Windows server and a Linux server. The student owns this for the entire course. And every lab is progressive. So you know what I mean by that when you say it's progressive? If you mess up lab 1, you get the joy of failing somewhere, probably around lab 4 or 5, and you get to go start back at lab 1. Now, as instructors, you're probably going, oh, that's painful. I would if I was teaching the students. But as an employer, I love it. Why do I love it? You don't get the joy when you work in a job to go, will you start me in the right place for the lab exercise? So a student that endures that pain is actually a better employee for me, believe it or not, because that's the way it is in the real world. So that's how it's designed for this course. Now we can change that design, but I think it's a good value for the student. Now, getting onto the cloud infrastructure services, and I apologize I can't navigate the PC real well here. Sorry. It's not your fault, Bill. Okay. Cloud infrastructure services is going to get a little more intense, but there's some real value here. Okay, for cloud infrastructure services, we're going to have more labs, and we're actually adding even more labs. But what we're going to do is we're going to give the student a little bit of a repeat what they might have done in the storage class, but only 4 labs. Instead of using OpenFiler, we're going to use NAS. Okay, so we're going to shift it up a little bit, give them a different experience. We're going to make sure they understand block level, file level storage, talk about backup recovery concepts and replication and deduplication. But the thing is, we're not going to talk about it. They're not just going to read about it. They're going to do it. The lab exercise is going to force them to do something so they can understand what they're doing. Now, why is that important before we really dig into the cloud exercises? Yeah, that's it, right? Storage is the component that's really making the cloud possible. And then we're going to get into vSphere and vCenter. Now, why does everybody think we want to start there? Basic virtualization, right? vCenter is really a management tool that's talking to ESXi servers. That's the VMs are residing on ESXi. So whether we're teaching vSphere or we're teaching OpenStack, there's got to be a management node, right? And by the way, I do have an OpenStack open virtual lab that you can introduce OpenStack to a student. Nobody's teaching it that I know of, but we have one. EMC would be fine with that. So would VMware. The whole point is to teach your student the concepts. Now, as we move down the stack, we're going to start introducing them to specific things. For example, we're going to get into vSwitches by Lab 7, benefits of vMotion and storage, VMware HA and VMware FT, and then using Converter, using ThinApp, VMware View. Now notice we got a little table here. This is really important, I think. If you take and do the EMC CIS, it maps to a certification from EMC, Cloud Infrastructure Services. And after this course, your student can get that cert. They should be able to pass it. If you do these labs and you watch online modules from VMware, they can also pass the VCA Data Center cert. So I don't know if your program tries to align to certifications, but a lot of employers are looking for students, even as interns, that have a cert, because if you can pass the cert, they know you have a baseline of knowledge. So we're trying to map the course not only to EMC cert, but to the VCA certs from VMware. These labs here are going to align to the data center, and then we're going to start introducing the student to some mobility concepts, which would be the View Horizon product from VMware. For anybody, now, is this value for folks? Are you getting stuff out of this? Go ahead.
Question. This seems more like a precursor to the ICM class rather than cloud infrastructure. I would have thought cloud infrastructure would have referred to Cloud Director, let's say AWS, Rackspace, OpenStack, Docker. This is more precursor to ICM than it is to
You hit it right on the money. Here's the thing. VMware broke their cert, and we can go look on their little cert page. They broke their certs into lower modules. You know how CCNA and broke down to CCENT? Now you can get a CCENT by taking 2 classes from the Cisco Networking Academy. Then you go to CCNA, then you go to CCNP. But what's happening in academia, and I know this doesn't apply to your college, I know what you guys are doing, very high-end training in virtualization. A lot of the colleges are struggling to teach virtualization at that level, at the VCP level.
Which I'm okay with, but then I wouldn't call this cloud infrastructure.
Okay, I'm not gonna argue the point with you, but I'm gonna highlight a few things. All right, right now what you're looking at is the building blocks. There are 4 other labs that are coming that map to vCloud, and that's what you want to get to. So the class is not designed necessarily only to teach you about the cloud, but all the components that make up cloud computing and virtualization. So that's what they're aiming for in the course.
Okay.
So I hear what you're saying, but the course is not aimed at the 2nd year student or the 4th year student in a 4-year school. It's aimed at the student that's considering and wants an overview. I personally think this is a good course for a business student, not necessarily just an IT student. So it's like building blocks for skills.
Would this
Go
interfere
ahead,
with
keep
the
going.
ICM?
How would a school get signed up to be able to have access to these resources?
All right, so we actually are hosting these labs right now for free. We are hosting these for free. So if you want to utilize these and try these out, you can go to netdevgroup.com.
The labs and everything?
Yeah. So anybody that wants to utilize this, you can go to netdevgroup.com and we can basically give you access so you can try them all out. Okay. Now if you've got a NetLab Plus system already, you'll be able to set them up on your system this fall and start using them at your school if you want. But why not just try the ones we have where they're ready for you and see if you like the lab environments.
Practice on what you do.
Absolutely. All right, so that's the CIS labs that are available. Now, let me really quick share what we're doing at NDG. What we're trying to do as a business is be social responsible to help you teach all of these different hands-on skills. It so happens that we're partnering with EMC and the VMware IT Academy. We also get the student all the way up to the VCP level, if that's what you want to do. So if you want to teach like View Horizon, VDI, you can teach that at the VCP level. You can teach the vSphere ICM course, which is data center.
Will the book match the labs as it goes?
Yes,
So there'll
there
be
is a
the book?
syllabus, a course syllabus. If I could get I'll log in and pull it up for you if you need to, but there's a course syllabus aligned to the lab exercises. So it maps the course
Has the book been released?
from EMC.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Content is available from the EMC Academic Alliance. And the lab exercises follow the syllabus. All right, mapping to the chapters. All right, so that's what our goal is. Now, this is not for something every college should do because of the labor and the time. But if you want to set up your own lab environment, this is what the NetLab environment is doing. You've got our software that creates the opportunity for you to schedule when you use a set of vSphere servers to host VMs. And then you can teach all of those different courses. Now, Bill's going to come up and demonstrate the CIS course. You're going to walk them through a lab? Is that
We'll
what
walk
you're
through
doing?
one lab. We'll walk through that first lab.
Okay. Now, anybody that wants to, and I know if you're a bunch of techies, which seems like a lot of folks are, you can go to this website and you can get lab time for what we just went over, the CIS labs and others. Holy cow. Register.netdevgroup.com, and you can get access to Linux Plus labs. Where's the scroll bar, Bill?
Left, right.
Okay. Linux Labs, VMware IT Academy at the VCP level, which you're interested in, and then the EMC, ISM, and CIS labs. So you can access all these labs off register.netdevgroup.com. And you can try them all you need to, and you can even email us and we'll give you labs for your students for CIS so you can try it in the classroom with your students. Bill, you want to walk them through the CIS
Okay.
labs real quick?
No worries. Let me answer the question that you were asking earlier about this being a cloud course. Remember, the labs are adding to the concept of how to do it. The book itself, the EMC book, their book, is very, very beefy. That's why Rich said that they have not completed all of the cloud labs yet. So you're seeing because even with vCloud Director, I just finished that course. It's one of those things where, yes, if you get this is kind of like a taste of those, so you know how you're standing it up. And then will come along the rest of the stuff that you would set up as well. So there's going to be more labs, but the book itself covers a lot more of the a lot more of the cloud-based concepts. Again, I'm going to talk about that tomorrow.
This is definitely very different than what it was maybe a year and a half
Very
ago.
much, and it's going to be changing even more as
That's
more.
kind of why I asked, because it's definitely a huge shift.
Yeah, it's going to go that way very much. So I just wanted to clarify that this is not this is not the precursor to the ICM course, and it doesn't replace it doesn't come even close to replacing the ICM course. Okay, is that good? Thank you. Okay, what I'm going to do is demonstrate in the cloud infrastructure and services virtual lab. So again, for those of you that have never seen what NetLab can provide for you, you're going to get a first-hand experience because I'm going to walk through the whole steps. Now, the first thing I did, only because I'll never remember the username and password again, is I've already logged into the NDG account. Now, this is the one that's hosted by NDG down on their servers. If your own college has their NDG, if you have your own NDG stand-up, you'll have your own version of this. But this is what the student sees when they log in. And they can elect what course, like for example, at any point in time, my college may be teaching 3 or 4 classes all using NetLab. If a student just happens to be enrolled in those 3 or 4 classes, they'll see a list of classes one step before this. They select the class they're in, then they select the exercise. I'll start that in just a second. What's really cool, and if you've never seen NetLab environment, this is what they're presented with. When the lab actually tells them to go in and set up the Windows client to do whatever, you come down here, or the Ubuntu client, you click on it, bang, there is your Ubuntu client. Everything is virtualized. So you don't have to worry about buying extra hardware, having, if you wanted 30 students all to be able to access this environment, you couldn't buy this environment. You could not buy 2 ESXi hosts, 2 NAS boxes, an Ubuntu, a vCenter Ubuntu, and supply those for 30 students. And you can't make it available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can, again, I'm doing my sales routine. That's what you get for working in sales before getting into education. So, we're already logged in. So the first thing you need to tell your students is they select what exercise they're going to do. These are the labs that Rich just talked about. And again, this list will expand. And what's really neat is, as it expands, your NetLab automatically can get those labs installed. Very easy to get done. So let's start with the first lab, which is understanding rate. So I will select the first lab, click on the change exercise button at the bottom. So now that lab has been loaded. At this time, I want to look at the exercise. Now, the exercises are all PDF files. Now, the PDF files can be downloaded from the NDG website and printed out if you want to print them out, if the student wants to print them out. It's going to be very kind of iffy on this screen. It's not enough real estate in my opinion. So it's very difficult to have the lab exercise and the actual console for the lab on the same machine at the same time. So I recommend that if you're going to have students do this, either they have a printed version of the lab, a tablet with the lab on it, like a Samsung, like an Android tablet or an iPad, and or a dual screen monitor. When we set up a more or less dedicated NetLab environment, we're going to grab second monitors and put them on all those computers. It really helps. So I'm telling you that as a little bit of anticipation. When you see everything looks kind of scrunchy, it's going to be really hard to read and see it. I understand, just simply because I don't have the technology here to do it with. But let's go ahead and show the lab content, which I've already loaded up. And I'll see if I can make it a little bit bigger. So as we go through the exercise, NDG has written all these labs in a very, very directed manner. You know, this is what you should see on your screen, click this. This is what you see on your screen, type this. This is what you see on your screen, do this. Now, in some ways, that's great to get students started. As an instructor, I have found that the best way to assign labs is to make them do it twice. The first time, with or without credit, they have to do it with all the clicks, is what I say. Then I pass out a separate lab. Cisco does this in their academy as well. I pass out a lab that says you need to be able to do this, 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 and this. Here are your objectives. I don't tell you how to do it. So you can practice how to do it using the detailed, but to actually get credit for the lab, you have to do it without having the instructions right. Because it's really easy to read, type, read, type. You get to the end of the lab, and what have you learned? How to read and how to type. But I'm giving, that's a little instructor hint. Sorry. Okay, so let's go ahead and kind of get started on this one exercise. I've got about 20 minutes. I'm maybe, do I have 5 minutes or 20 minutes? 5 minutes. Shoot. We'll get started on it. Okay, in 5 minutes, how fast can I go? In the lab, they give you, of course, all of the introduction, all of the objectives. They show you the lab topology, but the meat of it's going to come in right about here. Okay, so just to kind of get you started, first thing we need to do is to click on the Ubuntu client. Notice it becomes a clickable link, which will open, we hope, there we go.
I don't know how you work with that little computer.
So, this is your Java console, or not your Java, this is your Ubuntu console, and then like I said, you have to keep bouncing back and forth to the lab exercise. And we gotta find that one.
Hopefully you got a screen bigger than 6 inches.
Yeah, I know.
I get that request all the time. Will you get these labs to work on my phone?
Yeah, kind of tough. So you log in I can't read the user name and password there. Let's see if I can read it up here.
So Bill, we've only got 4 minutes, so I think people probably get the idea.
Okay.
And if you had a-
Enough, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I will also, like I said, I will also be showing this in my class tomorrow, in my session tomorrow, where I have specifically designed it to be a very short discussion and a lot of demo.
So why don't we open it up for some questions?
Thanks.
Hopefully we raised some interest. And I got an answer from Kim Yohannan, the EMC rep, on the question about can I pick and choose which content modules. EMC asked if you join their program that you teach the majority of the course as a real course. So they asked that you do that, the majority of the content. And they're not going to tell you how to teach the content. They know you're an instruction professional. But they asked that you be on the track, if you will. Are there other questions? Yes, sir.
Textbooks, are they available to students at no cost, low cost?
The books are available like even on like typical book sites like Amazon.com. You can sell them like there's an ISBN number. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, there's an ISBN
and you
number on
can sell it through. I think it's a Wiley book, isn't it?
Mhm.
It's a Wiley book, so you can do it through your bookstore.
Yeah, why, the ISM, Information Storage Management.
The other 3 courses like CIS is a PDF, so you don't have to. Your students don't have to pay for it.
Well, no, they have, do they have to pay for it? They don't have to.
I think it's free, isn't it?
I thought they had to pay like the $15.
Oh, is it 15
Gilmore.
for the?
Yeah, from
15
Gilmore
to cover the
Global.
Gilmore costs.
Yeah, it's the self-published through Gilmore Global.
Right.
Or Global Gilmore or whatever.
Any other questions?
When are the rest of the labs, when do you think you'll have them released?
The VCA cloud are probably going to take us a little longer because we've got to build a different topology. The big headache with this when you end up having to build like 5 topologies to teach like 16 labs
Yeah.
is all the components that have to move inside of it. I think it'll be ready this next quarter. The
Okay.
VCA cloud will. Okay. Yes, sir.
Any minimum requirements for the machine you're using to access it?
As far as the client machine, when I'm accessing it,
Yeah.
The
I'm sorry,
Java.
go ahead.
Java's the biggest thing. You need Java in the browser. We're replacing that with an HTML5 client. That'll be out this quarter too. Yeah. And it's much better. We've already built the HTML5 viewer. The headache with HTML5 implementation is you got to get everybody to implement SSL so you can implement HTML5. Yeah.
You mentioned that we can try out the net. Is there a point where if you're only trying out, you need to pay or buy or subscribe or build your own?
It's not on the plan right now, but eventually we will probably have to have like a fee per student because we won't be able to host it all for every student in the world.
Right.
They would break us. The big thing about schools is if they find something's free, it grows like crazy. For example, I just rolled out an Introduction to Linux course with a partner, Cisco Networking Academy, Linux Essentials. We're forecasting we could be as many as 100,000 students. But that's something you could pull that off because what's the difference between this course and the Introduction to Linux? You can build a VM with Linux, the footprint's like this big, right? And you can scale it to the moon. Whereas you start doing vCenter, ESXi, Asana, and you dedicate that to a student, the footprint per student gets very big and very expensive. Yeah. Even if you, try to do this. See if you can get a cloud provider, CloudDen, Amazon, to dedicate to a learning objective for one student, all the VMs you would need to teach this cloud. See what the price point would be.
Amazon did it for us.
Yeah, it's expensive though if you dedicate it.
They did it for free.
Hey, that's cool. Do you think they'll do that for every school in the world?
I had leverage.
Aha, there you go. But Amazon's great, and I encourage people to do those cloud providers. And CloudDen's another one. They do cool things. There's a lot of opportunities with the cloud computing. It's just you have to dedicate so many resources to do some of these labs, and so it gets expensive. Other questions? Okay, now this is a quick session, so we really couldn't get you logged in and let you play with things. Go to register.netdevgroup and you can do it on your own. Has anybody got any plans to do this maybe? Teach this cloud course after seeing it? Can you raise your hand so we get a feel? So a couple of folks. All right, anybody, did we waste your time? Because if we did, I'd love to get the feedback. I'm thick-skinned, I can live with it. Okay, well,